Hi everyone, this is Cheryl St.Pierre and welcome to my first polymer clay video. In this video, I will show you how I made these floral heart beads. This is the pendant bead and the earring beads, and they're mirrored. And I'll show you how to make the little flowers, as well as I will show you how I made this stone effect clay to make these hearts. And then I showed this as an option that you can really use just about any color, and you can change up any way you like. Just because I'm doing it a certain way doesn't mean you have to. And I'd like you to hit the like button if you like this video, and subscribe, and consider joining my retired video membership. And if you watch my previous introductions update video, you'll know what what I've changed in that. And I've also got a new Facebook group where I am offering items that I make in my videos, as well as components for sale. So if you'd like to support my channel and let's keep this going, then by all means, take a look at that group, and maybe there's something there that would interest you. Okay, so let's get started. One more thing I wanted to mention before we head into making the clay is with the items that I'm making in this video, I am going to do some wire wrapping creations with them too. So this is one of the upcoming videos that I will be making, is showing you how to wire wrap your creations in one of these designs. I think I have a total of 4 different designs that I'm going to show. So yeah, look forward to those. As I make them, I will put the links in the description, so keep checking back. Okay, let's go. Okay, for clays today, we're going to use about a ball of white clay. This is probably too much, but we're going to make it anyways, because then I can make extra hearts. And I've got a little bit of a peachy orange that I'm going to add to the white to make it an off-white. You could use any off-white color. That's up to you. And for the pink hearts, I just have this scrap of really pale pink pearl effect clay. So I actually made the pearl. I just put white mica powder in it, a lot of mica powder, but it worked and it turned out really shimmery. So I was happy with that. And then I just have this purple and green scrap that you only need a tiny bit. That's for making the flowers. So I'm going to set that aside. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to tenderize. Lack of terms here. We're going to work the clay and add some of this. And I'm going to start with just using, let's see, a pea size. And I'm going to do it through my pasta machine and blend it all together. And I'll be back when it's mixed. Okay, so I have it mixed. It's a slight peachy color, so it might have been even a little bit on the strong side, but it's going to work anyways. So the next step is to roll it out on the thinnest setting that you can. And that will tell us how much of the copper leaf we're going to use. That's the only reason we're doing it, because that's just the method to my madness. Okay, so I have that thinned out to a number 9 on my machine. My machine has number 1 through 9, 1 being the thickest and 9 being the thinnest. So I'm just going to take some copper leaf and cover the whole surface. And when the whole surface is done, then you know you've got enough to do this effect. I mean, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but cover as much surface as you can. If some is double covered, that's okay. It doesn't like to stick to itself, but it'll work. I'm going to get some more copper out here. Almost there. I'm just going to stick that in the middle. Make it stick to something. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, and we're not going to be neat about it, but we're going to cut it and layer it just like you would for an akumigami, but that's not what we're after here. So I'm cutting it in half, placing it on top. Cut it in half again. Actually, I'm going to cut it in quarters. Stack it all. And I'm going to cut it one more time. Actually, two more times. Okay, now I'm just going to smush it together a little bit just to make things stick. And there's some foil on the side. I'm just going to make it stick to the side. And now we're just going to squash it down so that we can put it through the pasta machine. So what we're wanting to do is break up all the copper into tiny flakes. And this will break it fairly evenly and be evenly distributed throughout all of the clay. And, well, you know what? I think I'm going to do it again until we get, because they're not small enough yet. Okay, I'm going to run it through the pasta machine on setting 1. And they're not small enough yet. We want to get it to be that small flake consistency in that stone look. I mean, if you had the stone clay, use it. Although I do like the glimmer of the copper when it shines through. It's getting there. I'm going to put it through the pasta machine again. I didn't realize it took me this many times before when I did my practice runs. Of course, when I was doing my practice runs, I was going after a totally different effect. So I just happened upon this by accident. Pleasant mistake. So I was working and reworking it, and it just happened. Oh, it's being stubborn this time. It's, you know, it's just about there. Oh, see, the copper's poking through there. Usually it doesn't. Oh, I think it's where we want it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half one more time. And I am going to cut it like an akumigane, but that's not what it's about. What it's about is we want the copper, when you cut it, the copper, you hit the copper flakes and you get more showing through. So we're just going to make kind of like a Skinner blend like this, but not a Skinner blend. A veneer. And it can be thicker. Actually, we probably want it a little bit thicker, but we're just going to cut it away with your blade and build it. I wish I had the camera so I could see in it as well as have a broader view so you can see what I'm doing more. But I'm not tech savvy, am I? Okay, so you're just building this layer. It probably looks crazy what I'm doing, but I'm just getting as much copper shining through as possible. Okay, so one cut. Yeah. Okay, now that's all the surfaces of being cut. Underneath is not necessarily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it in half. I'm going to roll it out a little bit. And then we'll put it through the pasta machine on setting. We'll do the pendants first because we want it thicker for the pendants. We want setting 3 for the pendants. Okay, so I'm going to put it on setting 3. And it's a bit messy, but that's okay. I don't want to cut it away. I want the copper showing up. And so you want 2 layers of number 3, thickness 3, with my machine that starts at number 1, doesn't have a 0. Okay. Earrings will be different. Earrings are going to work different. So you have 2 layers for each pendant. I'm going to make 2 pendants. No, I'm going to make 3 pendants. Because one, I'm going to make a pendant to go on a pin like this. I'm going to come up with a design. So it's got to be, I'm hoping it works anyways. We'll see. Because it needs a big hole. Okay, so that's everything we need for the 3 pendants. So we're going to have to put this all together and do the cutting again so that we get the flakes coming to the surface again for the earrings. So that will work with later. Okay, so what we need are for the necklaces, not the pin, is some 20 gauge, which is 0.81 millimeters in metric. And I'm reusing ones I've used before. I like to use my scraps for this. And they've been bent, so I'm just straightening it out. So you want it to be straight. And what I do is I take one heart in my hand and I hold this. This is going to hold, make the hole in the bead. And carefully place the second heart right over top. Now this is the most important part, or the hardest part, is to get the edges nice and smooth, because the more we do here, the less work we'll have later, so that that line doesn't we don't want to misshape the heart too much either. So when you pinch it like this, or hold it rather, it's like with wire wrapping. You're kind of preserving the original shape while you work on the edge. And then your heart doesn't distort as much. It still will, but you can fix it. So if we can't totally, I'm going to use a silicone tool here to get in there where your fingers can't. If you can't totally smooth it, after it's baked, we'll add some more clay in the groove. But if we don't have to, that would be better. I kind of messed that up. We'll have to burnish that out. Oh, fingers work better for this. This just works good in the tight spaces. It's getting there. I'll only do one while you watch. Hopefully I'm staying in focus. I find the worst part is where the wire is, because the wire gets in your way. And then when we remove the wire, it sometimes can break the bead apart a little bit too. So there's always some fixing to do later. But that's... Okay, so when I burnish it, I like to burnish it right on my cardstock that is going to go in the oven. And I'm going to have to move these hearts to do that, maybe. Yes, I think I might have to. Or I'll just burnish it on another piece of paper that's smaller. And so you're not going hard, because you can distort the heart really easily. But we just, want to take the fingerprints off. And I want to get that, it's almost out. scrape I had on there. I find burnishing, any of the videos I've watched, I haven't heard anybody mention that burnishing actually helps take out air bubbles. But I seem to find that it does. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I'm just going to pick it up. What's nice about paper is you can pick it up like this. No distorting. Okay, and I'm going to burnish the other side too. Because at this point, we really don't know what the top and the bottom will be. So we want to work it as best we can, because then it's less work later. And with my wrist, I can't do sanding like some people can. I just can't. So I try to make it as perfect as possible before it goes in the oven. And I'd say that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the next ones, and I'll be back. I forgot that with the last heart, we were going to do it a little bit differently. So I need, this time, a piece of 14 gauge wire, because that's what my pin is made out of. And we need it to have the hole big enough. So this is an experiment. We also want the hole to be this direction. So this might not succeed. I might need to put another layer in there. So let's just see if this is doable. Actually, I'm going to take... So I'm going to put a little bit of pressure in the heart. Now I got to make sure I lay the heart together nicely. It's hard to do on camera because you can't really see as well. There. Okay. Nope, it's still not. I'm going to set it down on this piece of paper. Flip it around like that. Yes, that makes it easier. Okay, so see how it's got the bump in the middle? We don't want that there. So what I think we'll do is take the rolling pin and gently put pressure in that spot and roll it back and forth. And that worked. Yay! Okay, so now because of the displacement of the wire, the one heart is bigger than the other, so we're going to have more work to do with blending it together, but I will do that off camera. Okay, so I've done the best that I can with the edge there. So the next thing you should check on your hearts is any place where it's not shaped, where it got misshapen, especially around the wires. Take your silicone tool or something that you have that's soft. I just recently got these tools and they are so wonderful. They're so gentle. It's amazing. Now that I've got them, I don't want to do without them. Good investment. Okay, so I've got the 3 big hearts done. ready for the oven. But I don't want to stick them in the oven. I want to get the earrings done to that level. So what we have to do is basically the same thing. I'm going to put this through the pasta machine, and then I'm going to slice it again to make that all the edges pop out, and so that we get as much copper sparkle as possible. So it's basically the same thing I did before, so I don't think you need to watch it twice, so I'll pause it. Okay, so I did that, and I folded it in half so that I've got the sparkly sides on both sides. Now, for making the earrings, we want it thinner than we did for the pendant. So I'm thinking number 4 on my pasta machine, and my pasta machine starts at 1 is the smallest. Oh, that gives lots. I was wondering if I'd have enough, but we have lots here, so that's good. Okay, so where is my little heart? I had them together when there it is, hiding under my tissue. So I'm just going to spritz this with water. And how many pairs of earrings are we going to make? In some ways, earrings are easier. In other ways, they're harder. With a pendant, you don't have to match the size or the flowers or reverse anything. See, we can make lots of earrings here. 2, 4, 6. Okay, we'll stop at 8 pairs because I think my paper will be full. And then this is going to go in my scrap book. Good way of putting it. Scrapbook that I am starting. Okay. And I'm going to put it in just like this. It's basically, it's a presentation folder which has the paper protectors in it. And I just slide them inside and there they are. Ready to go again. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe this up. So you have to make sure you have enough wires. And I'm not sure I do, but we've got 2, 4, 6, 8. So we need, yes, it's only 4 pairs. Actually, no, that's only 4 earrings. That's only 2 pairs. I could have cut more. That's okay. Because we'll be making more pink ones yet. Okay, so I got to make sure they're straight. So we'll just start with the 1. And I'll do just 1 in front of you. It's basically the same thing as the pendant, the regular pendant. So I just put the 1. It's a little bit more fragile. Oh, that wasn't the one I straightened. A little bit more fragile than the pendant. And because it's so tiny, it's a little bit harder to smooth the edges. I like it that I can get the hole right at the point on my beads here. It's my store-bought beads that I buy that are hearts. Oh man, you wouldn't believe how many heart beads I have thrown out because they were just cut so badly. And you know what? You'll find this out if you haven't already. Hearts are my favorite thing. So I'm doing the same thing where I'm holding it between my fingers, supporting it, and it really helps so the clay doesn't distort as much. It's amazing the difference it makes. As long as you don't squeeze it too hard, that is. And I see a bump there. I think I'm gonna, well, burnishing it should fix that, so it should. It's almost impossible to get them totally smoothed out on the earrings because of how small they are, and because they're thinner, they're a little bit more fragile. So you just do the best you can do, and just remember that it is less work later. And I use a Dremel for my edges. I use the polishing wheels, actually, instead of sanding wheels. And I find that when you use the orange wheel, if you push harder, it basically does sanding for you, and then you go lighter and it does the buffing. And then you put on the white wheel to do the final buff. Okay, I think that one's good. And now I will take the 2 pieces of paper. I'm not sure if I mentioned, this is just regular paper. Got a hair here. Take a pin to get that off. This is just regular printer paper. But I'm sure you figured that out already. Okay, so I'm not pushing too hard, but we do want to try and, yes, the wire line disappeared. That's what we were aiming for. Okay, and I have done it by accident where I burnished too hard and the heart got bigger. So if that happens, the best thing to do is make your pair the same size. So try and match them up. And so I'm going to keep this handy. Here, I've got another piece of cardstock right here. So that, I don't know if it got bigger. If it did, it's minimal, but it's nice to have your pairs matched up. Okay, so I'm going to finish them up and we'll go from there. Okay, so I have them all done, and I just wanted to say what I use for baking. I used to use my regular oven, and I heard somebody using a toaster oven, and I've got one. And so what I've been doing is I use my toaster oven. Now I use a ceramic tile about the size of this in there, and I leave it in there, except for when I'm using it for food. And the ceramic tile actually helps your toaster oven maintain its temperature better because it stays hot and it gives even heat. And then to protect the top, because the element is so close, you make a dome. Now this is like 2 to 3 layers of tinfoil that I put over a bowl. I formed it into a circle so that it would do a nicer dome. And so I tried to, so it's well protected from the top, and that's how I bake it. I also have a thermostat thermometer, an oven thermometer that I put in the oven because the gauge is not accurate. So you always need that, just so that you get the right temperature. And once you've got it, you've got it. And it usually, the toaster oven takes about 4 minutes, 5 minutes to preheat. So that's always good to do. So this is ready to go in the oven, and I'll be back when it's done. whoops, forgot to say, manufacturer's temperature, my clay says 275. So I try not to go over 275. And I try to get it right on, actually. And I'm going to bake this for about between 40 and 45 minutes. So I got those in the oven, and while those ones are baking, I just got myself another piece of cardstock to fill up with the pink batch. So with the pink, we're going to do exactly like we did with, I got copper on there, like we did with the stone looking clay. So for the pendants, we're going to do 2 layers of number 3, and for the earrings, we're going to do 2 layers of number 4, and then I will shape them and get them into the oven. So just so you know, I'm making the pink too. Okay, so my first batch is out of the oven, and I have my pink batch made, and they are in the oven right now. And I just wanted to show you the difference in color between the baked and unbaked. And it's amazing. It really, there was just a hint of peach in there, and I thought maybe it was too peachy. But you know what? It fades, and that's the perfect color. I don't know if you can see that color close up, but I really like the way this turned out. This is the best stone. It's better than the ones you can buy. This is what I'm going to do from now on. So just remember, roll out your white clay to the thinnest setting on your pasta machine, which on mine is number 9. And then you're covering the whole thing with the copper, and that is your measurement right there. Doesn't matter how much clay you have, as long as the whole thing's covered, and then you just do your stacking and rolling and cutting and stacking and rolling and cutting until you get the particles where you want them to be. Now these ones are a tiny bit large, but not too large. You can do it smaller than this. I think this looks great. I love the look. I love the look. So now we'll go on. The next thing we're going to do is check the edges to see if it needs filling. And you know, I think I'm going to try, they're not too bad. I think I'm going to try buffing it with the Dremel. See this? I'm not sure if I need to do some filling. So what I'm going to do, I think what we need to do is take the wires out. And with the hearts, you want to pull them this direction, because when you pull it out this direction, it can split the clay in the point. So, and the thing to do first is twist it until it's loose. And this one loosened up really fast. My last batch that I did, it took a bit to get them loose. Oh, really easy. Really easy. Well, that's nice. This one's a little bit more stuck. So it's the wire, this wire's not spinning, but this side is. And we just, there, you hear that click? And it's out. And it hasn't clicked yet. Oh, just did. There we go. Isn't it interesting how the copper changes color inside of the bead? Must be the chemicals in the bead does that. That was shiny copper when I used it the first time in the hearts. Okay. Now this one, first time for me to doing this one, I want to be super careful because it's bigger. I don't want it to wreck the heart. This is an experiment, basically. Oh, I heard a snap. And there we go. I might have to use a drill bit to loosen it up a smidge before I put yeah. Well, no, it's not too bad. I might loosen it up with a drill bit yet. But that worked. Definitely some sanding to do there. That was fast. There. Okay, so I'm just checking the edges to see if we need filling. It's not bad. Not bad at all. I'm quite impressed. Okay, so I am not set up to show you how I do the Dremel. Maybe what I should do is just walk you through. I'll bring the Dremel here and I'll walk you through it. My cord actually reached so that I could do it. Now, hopefully it's not too noisy, but basically, see that lump there? Let's sand that off. Okay, so that's all I did with the Dremel, and this is just a regular Dremel plug-in. It's not a it's the least expensive one, and wore it down. Just have to be careful how you do it. I did misshape it there, so I'll have to adjust the shape. So I think that's because of I was trying to do it for the camera. So let's see if I can fix it. Okay, so this really isn't something I should be doing on camera, but it's not, I can still adjust it and play with it, but that's not the one I'll work with to show you what I'm doing. I'll pick one of the other ones. So I'm just going to give these a quick buff because they don't need any fixing per se. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do with that one. Put my Dremel down. And you can see a bit of a crack there. So this is a good example for me to teach you the next step. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this aside, is I pulled out that clay. Now where did I set it? There it is. So I just need a little bit of that clay. And I'm just going to roll it. I don't want to do it on my paper. I'll just roll it here. Because you don't want to take too much at a time. You just basically want to fill it in I've got a tiny bit. Wherever it needs a bit of fill, you take that and you just rub it in. And when we're going to do the flowers next, and we will bake all that together because it will have the same amount of bake time. And it's okay if it's a little bit bumpy because we can sand it down afterwards. We just want to fill in those holes, which are hard to do. Just take a little bit at a time. Because you can always add more. It's easier to add more than it is to take away. But other than that, the edge, oh, I'm probably not in frame, sorry. The edge is actually quite pretty. So that's what I like about this. The back and the front look almost the same. So you don't need to do anything special. We made it nice and smooth already. I can buff it again with my Dremel to make it that much more smooth. But there's minimal work to do with sanding. And that's the ticket when it comes to polymer clay, is try and make it as perfect as possible before you bake it. Besides, it's more fun when it's clay than when you're sanding. When you're sanding, it feels like work. To me anyways. The clay part is creating. It's being a little bit sticky here, or not sticky rather. Let's see if I use the pin instead of my finger. There we go. That's working. Okay. Okay, that's perfect. So you do that with all of them before you do the flower part. But I'm going to jump right into making the flowers with the big heart. You make 3 flowers. With the earrings, you make 1. And you just need to take a little bit and roll out. There we go. Now it gripped. Just roll it out thinly. And some people cut it and make balls ahead of time. I don't tend to do that. I go by feel. I just take a little bit at a time as I need it. Because flowers aren't perfect. Flowers have one petal bigger than another. But I mean, when I roll it, I take a little bit. I put it in my hand. And I roll it, and you know, you can kind of feel what it feels like. And you want it like oval like that. And then you pick it up with your pin by poking it with the pin. And then I start with 1 flower on top. Sometimes you have to push it together. And there's one petal. And we're making three petal flowers. So kind of, in a way, looks like lavender. Not that it's not really meant to be a specific flower. Oh, I want to reshape that. It takes a bit of practice to do this, but not that much. And because I'm putting resin over top, we don't want it protruding too much, so you can tap it down just a little bit. But we're doing a fairly small, so it's not risen very much. The reason I like to bake, we could do it all in one step, make it just one bakes. I like to be able to not worry about the heart being destroyed when you're putting the flowers on. It just makes more sense to me. Okay, so that's basically what I'm calling one flower. And then the second flower I'm going to put over here, right? I'm just basically making a triangle of flowers. Oh, when that happens, you're better off just to start again. There we go. Actually, once you get going, it doesn't take that long. There, 3 flowers. And now, the leaves are almost identical. I try to make them actually a little bit smaller. Just a tiny bit smaller. So I try to do 2 leaves per flower, but sometimes it's hard to get 2 leaves for that one. I might make an extra small leaf in there. I thought about doing a darker green. I like the lighter green because it shows up more. It's a little bit big. Take away a little bit of clay. This one will definitely be too big. Still too big. Not cooperating. There we go. One more. And there, and each one will turn out differently. I just try to do 3 petals, 2 leaves, 3 petals, 2 leaves, and that gives, I'll get you in focus there. Okay, so the next thing that I just wanted to show you one that I had done before. I don't know if you can see that purple iridescence there. Now, at first I thought it was boring. I don't know if you need that. If you want extra glimmer, that's good. This is what I used. I used the Folk Art Color Shift pastel pink, and it goes perfectly with this because the iridescent part of it is actually purple. So it kind of goes with the flowers. And then I added some extra leaf. Now that is optional. You could do that now, but once it's baked, it has a tendency to come off. So you can see that this is floating in the resin. So you have to be careful when you're putting your resin on, not to make sure it's underneath. Otherwise, it could give out sharp edges. So that's going to be your personal choice, how you do it, whether you want to add some extra sheen. I'm wondering if I could show you how it's. So I put on extremely little. You basically. I'll do it on this cardstock here. I got a piece of cardstock. I'm thinking I don't want it on this one, but I wanted to just show you how I did that. Okay, so this paint is really, really thick. I just bought it a couple of days ago, and it came that way. I have another one. I have a lavender color, and it's super thin, so I don't know what consistency it's supposed to be. But my baby wipe here is really dry, so I'm just going to moisten it with water. Don't want it too wet, but a little bit wet. And then you just take a little bit like that, and you just dab a tiny bit on, and then you just spread it around with your finger. Just enough to get that sparkle. I don't know if you can, I don't think the camera's picking it up. Just enough, because when you put the resin on it, it like magnifies the sparkle. So that's all you need, is a tiny, tiny bit. And that can add a little bit more life. But I do like putting on a little bit extra copper foil. And so you got to be really careful with this too. And take a piece, and just this tiniest piece, and lay it down. And hopefully it'll stay down for you when you're doing your resin. I'm just going to put 2 pieces on. That's enough. Just enough to brighten it up. Okay, and now I'm going to show you. Oh, it needs to bake. Huh. I put it on too soon anyways. But if you're going to put the paint on, do the paint before you bake, because then the paint bakes in, and then it just, it's got more longevity. Oh, mind you, we're resining anyways. But, sorry I bumped the phone. So all those steps can be done. The foil, I wouldn't recommend putting the foil on before you're baking, because some reason copper seems to oxidize, and that's why it's brownish with a little bit of copper flake, but what's inside is oxidizing, so it's unpredictable what it's going to do. So I like to put the copper foil on after I bake it the last time. So I just took that off. So I'm going to go ahead and make all my flowers. But maybe I should quickly show you how I do an earring. Okay, so you gotta pick out, gotta check it. It's not bad. It's actually very good. And basically, very simple. You're going to pick your pairs. The ones that, see, those two look pretty much identical. You're going to make one flower. You're going to mirror them. You're going to make one flower on this side for this one and the flower on that side for that one. Of course, I mean, that's up to you too. I mean, your flower's your flower. I should roll that out. What's nice about this is you don't have to do all your flowers at the same time. You could do them over a couple of days, whenever you got a few minutes, and just set them someplace safe. And then when you're ready to bake them all, you just put them in the oven. It only takes 15 minutes of baking in a preheated oven. And the flowers are baked on. So it's not that bad. There, that one's done. And my oven just finished with my pink ones. Maybe I should do a pink one. I should go check on them. I'll be right back. Okay, so here's the pink ones. The sparkle doesn't really show up that much, but I know it will once I put resin on. So anyways, I'm going to continue with putting the flowers on, and I was just going to show you how to do it on this side, but I think you can, it's doing the exact same thing except for you're making the flower facing that way. So I will come back when I've got all that done. Okay, so I have these out of the oven, and I have one set of pink in the oven. But I figured I would, before I end this video, just quickly show you how I am going to resin these. And the reason I want to resin these is because I've heard that flowers can break off quite easily. And if you're wearing it as earrings and necklace, I think I want them protected. So I'm going to just put a little bit of copper leaf on each of these. Not much, just a couple of accents. It's so hard to get a small piece though. Is that too big? At least it's easy to take off again to break it up. Yeah. Can't sneeze around this stuff, that's for sure, hey? Sticking to my finger. There we go. Here's one. Nice and small, good. too. And I got a couple more I could stick on here. Don't know where that last one went. Oh, there it is. Okay. We're good. I almost should start my own little jar of leftovers. Okay, so I like to resin on top of parchment paper because the resin will not stick to parchment paper. And I don't have a mess to clean up afterwards. I can just throw the parchment paper away. Okay, and I use one of my scrap pieces of copper. Which one is in bad shape? I could use all of them again. But anyways, instead of using a toothpick, I just use one of these. And I tend to use one for a long time before the end builds up. And then I have to start another one. So I am using this resin, which is a hard resin, a doming resin. And I just, actually, I do one item at a time. I should take that off. Put that in the middle. It might not be enough, but I will see. Some big bubbles there. Don't normally get bubbles. This, I really seem to like this resin. It's from China, I think. I get it on Amazon in Canada. Now make sure I have to push my copper flake down. And I go around and drag it. And you have to drag it over the flowers because that's where your bubbles are going to be. Even when you use a lighter, you still end up with bubbles. But that's the beauty of resin. I love resin. It adds so much. And I like to, another thing that's nice about doing it on the parchment paper is it's so easy for me to spin it around. So you just drag it to the edges. You don't want to put too much at a time because you could end up running over. I have only run over once and it was very minor just because I'm so careful. But that's the key, is trying to be careful. Don't rush it. So hard resin is considered doming resin, but it's actually a self-leveling to some degree too, except for it rounds itself on the edges. So you constantly need to check around so it pulls itself together. And so you just have to check the edges. And when you know, when it's looks good on the edges, you know you have enough. And you got to check the flowers. Make sure it's covering there. looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to take the lighter to it now. The lighter thins the resin to some degree. And so you almost need to check it again. Especially by the flowers, because it tends to run away from the flowers. Okay, so I'm going to take this to the light. Okay, here's all my pieces out of the oven and with resin. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's got a mild shimmer on the pink. I think the camera's catching it there just a little bit. And then, oh, there's another hair. And a little bit of copper leaf on these just adds interest. Isn't that stone look amazing? Love it. And the backs are just beautiful. So these will be great for mirrored earrings. Love them. Okay, well, thank you for joining me in this video, and please hit the like button if you like this video. And this is my first polymer clay video, so you know, hopefully you understood that. And normally I do just jewelry, and I'm going to be making, actually here, I was going to show you. This is one of the pieces of jewelry I make with these hearts. And I'm going to be doing some tutorials showing you a couple of ideas. I'm going to do a tutorial on making the pin. I got my wire caught in here. Making the pin with one of the big hearts, and I've got a couple of different earring designs that I do as well. So I will, when those tutorials done, I will put the links to those tutorials in down below in the description. So you just have to be patient and wait for them to get done. And I'm also I started a group where you can look at my stuff to purchase. You can purchase some of these items if you want to create with them, and you can purchase finished jewelry as well. So please check that out. Join the group if you want to. You can still comment on anything even if you're not in the group. I'm not sure if I'll have to do the pre-approval or not, but that's all new to this channel, and so we're working out the bugs on that. And I think that's all I wanted to say. Yeah, God bless, and we will see you in the next one. Bye for now.